Something is clearly not working. All over the world, we're seeing protests or apathy. And the problem is this. Our democracy has remained the same for the past 200 years. We are 21st century citizens interacting with 19th century institutions. Representative democracy is broken. The internet has changed many things: culture, commerce, communication and media. But so far, it has failed to change one key area of our lives: politics. It's time to decide what democracy looks like in the internet era. Democracy Earth is building incorruptible voting technology for the internet age.
Hi, I'm Santiago Siri, co-founder of Democracy.Earth, and we're trying to bring democracy to the 21st century. This is the elections in Buenos Aires, Argentina last year, and I want you to pay close attention to three key things: the technology that is being used for the election, the lack of trust in that technology, and the violence that lack of trust inspires. Sadly, this situation is actually happening anywhere in the developing world right now. Democracy is broken. And it doesn't stop there. This year, we all talked about the Brexit, while we are seeing a lower voter turnout in every election across all the developed nations as well. Since the 1970s, participation has been going systematically down in Europe and the United States of America. We need to address this problem. That picture from yesterday of everyone taking a selfie while looking at Hillary, they are not paying attention to Hillary, they're paying attention to the internet. So we started in 2012, and we started with a hybrid model, pioneering open source politics. On one hand, developing open source technology for participation, and on the other hand, developing a new political culture. We created a new political party in Buenos Aires, Argentina, called the Net Party, or Partido de la Red, that has a very simple promise. The candidates are committed to always vote in Congress according to what citizens decide online. We ran for our first election in 2013, and we got 1.2% of the votes in the city of Buenos Aires. It wasn't enough to get the candidate elected, but it started a movement. Sadly, in 2015, we couldn't run because we got asked to bribe a federal judge. We're facing a very corrupt system, and that's the reality in most of the developing nations right now. But our movement grew beyond borders. We started connecting with a new generation of political parties across all of Latin America, and even we saw other Partidos de la Red and Net parties happen in other countries in the region as well. Today, we're working on blockchain democracy. The blockchain is an incorruptible ledger that can store all kinds of transactional information and bureaucratic processes in a decentralized network that operates over the internet. And it has tremendous potential, especially in developing nations where the trust for institutions is at an extreme low. We're piloting our technology right now with a big referendum that is happening in Colombia next Sunday. After 50 years of civil war, finally the government and the FARC, the Marxist guerrilla in Colombia, reached a peace treaty. And this treaty is going to be ratified with all of the Colombian population on a referendum next Sunday. A Brexit-like moment for Colombians and Latin Americans. And what we're doing is inviting all the Colombian expats, over 7 million people that have flown the country, have escaped the country because of this conflict, to participate in a digital referendum where we get to recognize their citizen rights. How a blockchain democracy is different from the traditional democracy? Traditional democracies, at the end, only authorities get to audit the election and count the votes. By working with a blockchain, We are decentralizing, we are democratizing the single point of failure of democracy. By storing votes directly on a blockchain, every voter, without requiring any kind of special access to our servers or to our services, can audit the election in a completely permissionless way. Traditional democracies, probably know these two guys. What a contrast. Traditional democracies offer very few options, usually very narrow questions, yes-no questions on very, very complex topics. What we're piloting also in the Colombian referendum and in a university in Iraq and other locations around the world is this idea of a peer-to-peer democracy, where you can start electing not from the top elected political leaders, but among your peers, among your friends, among your colleagues, in your social graph. You can vote directly on the issues you care, or you can delegate your voting power to someone you already know and trust and start building from the bottom up. And that delegation is based on knowledge rather than just territory. We are raising $250K to bring our technology natively to mobile devices and to start executing on other big referendums in diasporas around the world to recognize the citizen rights of citizens that are not living in their country right now, and start building the commons of the internet. We are a team of political scientists, hackers, engineers based in San Francisco, in Paris, and Buenos Aires that have been working on these issues for the last 5 years. Democracy is always a work in progress. It's the one exception to all the other political ideas out there. It's the one idea that pushes us forward to keep thinking on how we make better decisions together as a community. You may say we are dreamers, but we are not the only ones. Thank you.